Think about this for a second. Just a few years ago, an $80,000 salary could land you a really solid $450,000 house. But in 2026, that same salary actually gets you closer to a $280,000 house. You didn't get lazier, you didn't fail financially, you just lost over $170,000 in buying power because the rules have changed. The old advice about home buying is officially broken. Mortgage rates went into the high 6s and 7s at one point, and now we're back down to the low 6s and high 5s. So I think now is a perfect time to revisit how much home you can actually afford. So today I'm giving you the 2026 rule book. Stick with me until the end because today I'm going to show you exactly what a $40,000, $80,000, and $150,000 salary can actually afford in today's market. Not what TikTok says, not what Zillow shows you, and not what a lender approves you for. And a fair warning, the numbers might sting, but I'll also show you how to play this market without becoming house poor. Before we even start talking about buying a house, we need to talk about renting because for most people, renting is the starting line. And this is where the disconnect already begins. The most common advice you'll hear is the 30% rent rule and sometimes 25%. It says your rent shouldn't exceed 30% of your gross income. Sounds simple until we run real numbers. $40,000 salary equals $3,300 per month times 30%. That comes out to $1,000 per month for rent. $80,000 salary is $6,666 per month times 30%, and that comes out to $2,000 per month. And then lastly, $150,000 salary is $12,500 per month times 30%, and that is $3,750 per month. Now compare that to today's reality. The median rent in US is hovering around $1,900+ per month. And in many cities, it's well over $2,200. So if you're making $40,000 or even $50,000 a year, the math already doesn't work. And here's the part that nobody talks about. That 30% rule assumes no car payment, no student loans, no credit cards, no childcare, no rising utilities, but real life doesn't work like that. You're making $80,000 a year and you've got a $450 car payment, $300 in student loans. That's $750 gone before rent even hits. So when a landlord says you need to earn 3 times the rent, what they're really saying is, we don't care if you save, we just want the check to clear. That's why so many people feel broke even while doing everything right. That is one of the reasons for me as a landlord, I also request for 3 months of bank statements as I want to see reserves and how they manage their money and making sure they can actually save and have a nice buffer between their balance and payments. I highly recommend that for other landlords as well because you'll get more qualified tenants and you're also making sure you're not hurting the person because ultimately if you get someone in there and they're hurting by these payments, you're gonna have an issue and eventually have to evict them if they can't make payments. Here's the key mindset shift I want you to lock in. Renting isn't the problem, over renting is. The goal of renting isn't to win Instagram, it's not to win on TikTok, it's to create breathing room so you can save, pay down debt, and prepare for ownership on your terms. And that's why understanding your rent ceiling is critical because it directly affects whether buying is even possible later. Which brings us to the buying side. So now that we understand what renting realistically looks like in 2026, let's talk next about the question everyone asked. Okay, but how much house can I actually afford to buy? This is where the advice gets even more misleading because approval and affordability are two different things. If owning a home feels further away than ever, you're not imagining it. For years, the advice was simple. Save a down payment, follow the rules, buy, start a home, but the game's changed. The biggest reason, the cost of borrowing money. Those 3% mortgage rates are gone. In 2026, most buyers are looking at rates in the high 5s, the low 6, and yes, that's better than peak of 2023. And yes, affordability is expected to slightly improve in some cities, but here's the problem. Home prices are still 25 to 28% higher than they were in 2020. So even though rates stabilized, the math is permanently different. That's why the old advice doesn't work anymore and why we need more realistic framework. The most important one, the 28-36 rule. Here's what it says. 28% rule, your total housing payment. Mortgage, taxes, insurance should stay under the 28% of your gross income. The 36% rule is your total monthly debt. Housing, car loans, student loans, credit cards, any other obligations you might have should stay under 36%. Lenders might approve you at 43%, but living comfortably happens below that line. Remember this phrase, and we'll come back to it a lot, but I tell this to my buyers all the time when I'm helping them search. Approved does not mean affordable. Let's start with a $40,000 salary. That's about $3,333 per month gross. Using the 28% rule, your absolute max housing payment is $933 a month. And that has to cover everything: mortgage, taxes, insurance. Let's be real, in most of the US, you can't even get a rental at $933. But let's assume you somehow saved 10% down after taxes and insurance, which can easily run $250 to $300 per month. That payment only supports about a $125,000 mortgage. That puts your max home price around $140,000. In 2026, that means rural areas, very low cost, cities or small condos, you might have HOA fees, but it might still be worth it, right? This is the hard truth. At this income level, housing isn't a budget problem, it's a math problem. Home ownership usually requires a second income, a much larger down payment, or a serious increase in income. Now, let's double the income. At $80,000 per year, you earn about $6,667 per month gross. The 28% rule says $1,867 max housing payment. But here's where most people get tripped up. The 36% rule kicks in. Your total allowed debt is about $2,400 per month. Let's say you have a $400 car payment, $300 student loan. That's $700 gone before you even think about housing. Now your housing budget is closer to $1,700 per month. That's how DTI silently kills buying power. With a $1,700 payment, high fives and low six rates, plus taxes and insurance, you're looking at roughly $250,000 mortgage, $280,000 purchase price with a 10% down. That's a real number. In many Midwest and Southern markets, like the market I'm in, that still buys a starter home and sometimes even an upgrade. In coastal or hot metro areas, condos and townhomes. And here's the key lesson. It's not about what you earn, it's about what you earn minus what you owe. Paying off a car loan can literally increase your buying power by tens of thousands of dollars. Quick pause. If you're enjoying this video, please make sure to mortgage the like button and as well consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like these. My goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by February, so it would be greatly appreciated. And for you doing that, here's a cute picture of my dogs, Roman and Toby. Now let's get back to the video. Now let's look at a higher income household earning, $150,000 per year. That's about $12,500 per month. 28% rule, $3,500 housing payment. 36% rule, $4,500 total debt limit. Let's assume $800 car payment, $500 student loans. That's $1,300 in non-housing debt. So your housing budget drops to $3,300 per month. With a 20% down payment in today's rates, that supports $400,000 mortgage or potentially $500,000. With a 20% down in today's rates, that supports $400,000 mortgage and a $500,000 purchase price. That opens a lot of doors, but here's the trap. As home prices rise, insurance, taxes, and as well maintenance rises with it. In states like Florida, Texas, and California, insurance alone can completely wreck your numbers. They've got an insurance crisis going on right now, and not sure when that might get solved, but that's something to consider if you're in those markets to make sure your insurance is on point. At this level, affordability isn't about getting approved, it's about protecting lifestyle and cash flow. So what are the new rules? First, obsess over DTI. Debt is your biggest enemy. Every monthly payment you eliminate becomes buying power. Second, be flexible on down payments. 20% is ideal, but not always realistic. FHA, 5% down payment conventional loans, that's what I used to purchase my own house when we upgraded. I could have put down more money, but when I did the math, it made more sense to put less money and just eat the PMI. These loans can be tools, not traps. Third, get location smart. Single family homes in hot cities are becoming luxury items. Real affordability is shifting to second tier cities, outer suburbs, remote friendly markets. This isn't lowering your standards, it's playing the game that exists today. I used to live in New York, and when we started searching for homes back in 2018, 2019, we started realizing how expensive it was to buy something on Long Island. $220,000 was getting me a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1,000 square foot condo or townhome in undesirable neighborhoods. So what we started doing, ultimately, we decided to move down here to Virginia. That same $220,000 back in 2019 bought me a 3 bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 1,800 square foot condo. I always tell people that are unhappy in New York, you're not a tree. You can move to other places if you're unhappy. So just keep that as an option if you're unhappy where you're at when you start searching for a home. Buying a home in 2026 has nothing to do with the advice that your parents got. The market reset. Winning now means knowing your numbers, respecting your DTI, and choosing sustainability over ego. Rates have stabilized now, so it's a great time to start searching. Inventory is slowly improving, and for the first time in years, buyers are getting leverage back. I'm helping some of my buyers get all their closing costs covered. They're getting better rates now as well. It's not easy, but it is possible with the right strategy and plan. You just need the new playbook.